The war room was silent except for the low hum of the ship's engines. 50 commanders sat around the massive circular table, their gray skin reflecting the blue light from the holographic display above them. The display showed a small blue planet spinning slowly in the darkness of space. Earth. Commander stood tall, his four arms gesturing confidently at the image. His black eyes gleamed with ambition as he addressed the council. He had waited years for this moment, and now it was finally here. Honored members of the High Command, began, his voice strong and clear. Before you is our next target, the planet they call Earth. It sits in a perfect location, right at the edge of three major trade routes. Its resources are abundant: water, minerals, rare elements, everything we need to expand our empire. He touched a control panel and the image zoomed in on Earth's surface. Cities appeared, small and scattered compared to settlements. Their technology looked primitive. Their weapons seemed outdated. As you can see, continued, the humans are weak. They barely achieved faster-than-light travel 50 cycles ago. They have small colonies on nearby worlds, but nothing impressive. Their military forces are scattered and disorganized. This will be an easy conquest. Several commanders nodded in agreement. One of them, a younger officer named, spoke up. How many ships do they have? Smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. Our intelligence reports show approximately 300 combat vessels. We have 2,000. The numbers speak for themselves. What about their weapons? Another commander asked. Primitive, said dismissively. Missile systems, basic energy weapons, nothing that can penetrate our shields. They have no defensive satellites around their home world. No planetary shields. They are sitting targets waiting to be claimed. The room filled with excited chatter. Commanders discussed how they would divide the spoils, who would govern which territory, how quickly they could strip the planet of its resources. The conquest seemed certain. Victory seemed guaranteed. High Matriarcha sat at the head of the table, watching silently. She was old, even by standards. Her skin had faded to almost white, and scars covered her arms from countless battles. She had led the Empire for 30 cycles, and her judgment was rarely questioned. But now she looked troubled. Commander, she said, her voice cutting through the chatter, you present this as an easy victory, but I must ask, have you reviewed all historical records about humanity? Hesitated for just a moment. Of course, Matriarch. There was a minor incident 30 cycles ago, but it was resolved. We signed a peace treaty. The humans agreed to stay out of our territory, and we agreed to leave them alone. Since then, they have caused no problems. A minor incident, a voice said from the shadows at the back of the room. Is that what you call it? Everyone turned. An old slowly stood from his seat in the corner, Ambassador Or. He walked with a limp and his body was covered in scars. Half of his face looked melted, the result of burns that had never fully healed. He rarely attended war councils anymore, preferring to stay in his quarters, but today he had come. His confidence wavered. Ambassador Or, I did not expect you to attend this meeting. Clearly, Or said, his damaged voice rasping. Because if you expected me, you would have prepared better lies. The room went quiet. Everyone knew Or's reputation. He was one of the greatest warriors in history. He had conquered 12 worlds before he was 50 cycles old. But something had happened to him 30 cycles ago, something involving humans. He had returned from that mission broken, and he had never been the same. A gesture to an empty seat near the front. Ambassador, please join us. It seems you have something to say about this proposal. Or limped forward, his footsteps echoing in the silent room. He did not sit. Instead, he stood directly across from, staring at him with his one good eye. You call the Terran incident minor, Or said. You stand there with your pretty charts and your confident words, and you tell these commanders that humans are weak, that they will be easy to defeat, that this will be a simple conquest. It will be, insisted, but his voice had lost some of its strength. or laughed. It was a bitter, terrible sound. I said the same thing once. I stood where you stand now. I looked at the same data. I saw the same primitive technology, and I led 5,000 warriors to what should have been an easy victory. He paused, touching the scars on his face. 342 warriors came back. I was one of them. The commanders shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Some had heard rumors about what happened 30 cycles ago, but the official records had been sealed, classified, buried deep in the archives. "Ambassador," I said gently, "perhaps you should share your experience with the Council. If we are to make an informed decision, we must know the truth about humanity." Started to protest, but I silenced him with a look. Or nodded slowly. He touched a control panel and the image of Earth disappeared. In its place, old battle footage appeared, ships burning, warriors dying, and in the center of it all, a small human vessel with strange markings on its hull. 30 cycles ago, or began, I thought exactly as Commander thinks now. I believed humans were weak. I believed they would surrender easily. I believed that their primitive technology made them inferior. He looked around the room, meeting the eyes of every commander present. I was wrong, and my arrogance cost thousands of lives. He took a deep breath. "Let me tell you what really happens when you attack humanity. Let me tell you about the price of underestimating Earth. And when I am done, you can decide if you still want to proceed with this invasion." The room was absolutely silent. Even had stopped talking. All eyes were on the ambassador as he began his tale of warning, a story of a species that refused to die, refused to surrender, and refused to forget. Or's clawed hand moved across the control panel, and the holographic display changed. A ship appeared, small and sleek, with the word written on its side in human letters. It looked fragile compared to war vessels, like a toy someone might give to a child. "This was our first real contact with humanity," Or said. "A research vessel, 32 crew members, no weapons. They were exploring a nebula near their territory when my fleet found them." The commanders leaned forward, watching the footage play out. They saw the ship surround the small human vessel. They saw the boarding parties breach the hull. They saw the humans surrender without fighting. "It seemed perfect," Or continued. "We had prisoners. We could interrogate them, learn about Earth's defenses, find their weaknesses. It should have been simple." He paused. "I was about to learn my first lesson about humanity." The scene shifted to a holding cell inside a ship. A human male sat on the floor, his hands bound behind his back. He was young, maybe 30 cycles in human years. His name tag read Captain. Despite being a prisoner, he sat straight, his face calm. "We brought their captain to me," Or said. "Captain, he was polite, respectful. He answered simple questions about his ship and his crew. He seemed cooperative." The ambassador's voice grew darker. "But when we asked about Earth's location, about their military bases, about their defenses, he refused to answer." In the footage, interrogators entered the cell. They began with threats, said nothing. They moved to pain. The captain's face twisted in agony, but his mouth stayed closed. Hours passed in the recording. The interrogators became more desperate, more violent, still gave them nothing. "We broke his bones," Or said quietly. "We burned his skin. We kept him awake for days, every method we knew we used. And he endured it all. I could not understand it. Other species broke quickly. They begged. They traded information for mercy. But not humans, not this captain." A female commander spoke up. "Surely his crew was not so strong. You had 32 prisoners. One of them must have talked." Or made a sound like a bitter laugh. "We thought the same thing. We brought in his science officer, a woman named. We thought she would be easier to break. We were fools." The display showed a young woman with short black hair. She looked at the interrogators with the same calm expression as her captain. No fear, no panic, just quiet determination. "We told her that if she gave us the information, we would spare her captain's life," Or said. "We thought she would care about him. We thought she would trade his life for the information. He shook his head. She told us that Captain would rather die than betray Earth. Then she said something I will never forget. He touched the controls and the recording played with sound. His voice was clear and steady. You can torture us, you can kill us, but you will never find Earth through us. And when our ship fails to return, our people will know you are hostile. They will prepare. And when you finally find Earth, you will regret it. We thought she was bluffing, or said, empty threats from a frightened prisoner, so we increased the pressure. We tortured them both. We tortured their entire crew. 32 humans, and not one of them broke. Not one of them gave us what we wanted. The commanders were silent now. This was not what they expected to hear. Species were supposed to value their own lives. They were supposed to surrender when facing death. That was logical. That was normal. After 15 days, or continued, I made a decision. I offered Captain a deal. I told him I would release his entire crew. I would let them go free. All he had to do was give us the coordinates to Earth. The ambassador's voice dropped to almost a whisper. Do you know what he said? The room waited. He said no. Silence. I could not believe it, or said. I thought he misunderstood. I explained again. Freedom for information. His crew would live. They would go home, but he refused. He said that if we wanted Earth, we would have to find it ourselves, and if we found it, we would face consequences. Finally spoke, so what did you do? I grew angry, or admitted. I thought he was being stupid, stubborn. I thought I could force him to see reason, so I brought his entire crew to the hangar bay. I told him I would kill them one by one until he talked. I started with a young engineer, then a navigator, then a medical officer. One by one, I executed his crew while he watched. The footage showed the horrific scene. Human bodies falling. Captain's face wet with tears, but his mouth still closed. His crew members died without begging. Some even smiled at their captain before the end, as if telling him it was okay. I killed 30 of them, or said. 30 humans died and Captain never said a word. Only 2 remained. The captain, and I thought surely now he would break, but I was wrong again. The display showed the final moments. Captain and stood together in the hangar bay, surrounded by guards. Their hands were still bound, but somehow they managed to stand close to each other. Looked at me, or said, and she told me that we had made a mistake. She said humans do not fear death. She said we fear failing those we love. She said their crew died knowing they protected Earth. That was enough for them. In the recording, turned to her captain and spoke words in their human language, nodded. Then somehow she broke free from her bonds. She ran. I did not understand what she was doing at first, or said. She ran toward their ship. My guards shot at her, but she was fast. She reached thee and got inside before we could stop her. The footage showed the small ship suddenly glowing with energy. Alarms blared throughout the hangar. She activated their ship's reactor, or explained. She overloaded it. She turned their entire vessel into a bomb, and she detonated it while we were all around it. The display went white with the explosion. When the image cleared, the hangar was destroyed. Bodies lay everywhere. Parts of the ship's hull had been blown open to space. 200 of my warriors died in that explosion, or said, touching the scars on his face. I survived because I was behind a blast door. Captain did not survive, but before he died, he was smiling. He looked around the room at the shocked faces of the commanders. That was my first lesson about humanity. They do not surrender, they do not break, and they will die before they betray their own. I thought it was an isolated incident. I thought these were just fanatics. I was wrong again. Or let the silence hang in the air for a moment before continuing. He could see some commanders shifting uncomfortably in their seats. Others looked skeptical, as if they still believed this was just bad luck or poor planning on Or's part. After the incident, he said, we knew war was coming, had been right. The ship's failure to return would alert Earth, so we decided to strike first before they could prepare. We would hit their colonies and force them to surrender before they could mount a real defense. The holographic display changed again. Now it showed a barren planet with red dirt and gray rocks. A small settlement sat in a crater, surrounded by mining equipment and simple buildings. It looked peaceful, harmless. This was 442b, or explained. A human mining colony, 300 settlers, no military presence, no warships, no defensive weapons, just miners and their families digging for minerals and sending them back to Earth. Commander spoke up, his confidence returning slightly. 300 civilians against your warriors. That proves my point. Surely that was an easy victory. Or turned to face him. I thought the same thing. I brought 5,000 warriors. I had 20 gunships. I had armor and weapons and shields. They had mining equipment and basic firearms. The battle should have lasted hours. It lasted 3 days. Confusion rippled through the council. 3 days against civilians. Let me introduce you to, or said. The display showed a middle-aged human man with graying hair and tired eyes. He was the colony administrator, not a soldier, not a warrior, just a manager who organized work schedules and supply shipments. But when my fleet appeared in orbit, he became something else. The footage showed the colony scrambling as ships descended from the sky. Miners ran for cover. Families hid in underground shelters, but some humans did not run. They gathered around as he gave orders. We sent them a message, or said. Surrender or die, simple, clear. They had 1 hour to decide. He paused. Sent back a reply. He said they would use that hour to prepare. Prepare what? A commander asked. They had no defenses. That is what I thought, or said. But I learned my second lesson about humans that day. They do not need weapons to fight. They create them from whatever they have. The display showed frantic activity in the colony. Humans were taking apart their mining equipment. They were moving machines. They were digging trenches and setting up barriers made from mining containers and metal sheets. Their chief engineer was a woman named, or continued. A new image appeared showing a young woman covered in dirt and grease, working frantically on some kind of machine. In that 1 hour, she modified their mining lasers into weapons. She their ore transport drones to carry explosives. She turned their entire colony into a fortress. The footage shifted to the battle. Warriors dropped from the sky in landing pods. They expected to find frightened civilians. Instead, they found themselves under attack from every direction. Mining lasers cut through their armor. Drones exploded near their formations. Tunnels that the miners had dug collapsed under advancing troops, swallowing them whole. Makeshift catapults launched containers filled with mining explosives into the air, raining fire on the forces. We lost 400 warriors in the first hour, or said quietly. I could not understand it. They were not trained soldiers, but they fought like they had been preparing for this their entire lives. The battle footage was brutal. Humans used the terrain to their advantage, hiding in the very tunnels they had dug to mine ore. They set traps in abandoned buildings. They used their knowledge of the planet's unstable geology to cause avalanches and cave-ins. Kept adapting, or explained. Every time we changed our tactics, she found a counter. When we sent in armored vehicles, she modified the mining drills to pierce armor. When we attacked from the air, she used the colony's ore refinery to create a kind of primitive anti-aircraft gun. She was not a weapons expert. She was an engineer who dug rocks from the ground. But she learned, and she learned fast. A female commander leaned forward. But you won eventually. You said the battle lasted 3 days. Yes, we won, or said bitterly. We won by sacrificing 3,000 warriors. 3,000 trained soldiers died fighting 300 miners. And when we finally breached their last defenses and entered the colony's central hub, do you know what we found? He did not wait for an answer. The display showed the colony's command center. Dead humans lay everywhere. They had fought to the last person. In the center of the room was a communications array, its lights still blinking. They had been transmitting the entire time, or said. Every tactic we used, every weapon we deployed, every weakness they discovered in our armor, our shields, our strategy, all of it was being sent back to Earth in real time. The implications sank in. The commanders understood now. This was not just a battle, it was a learning experience for humanity. They had sacrificed 300 people to gather intelligence. Died at that communications array, or continued. He stayed there, wounded and bleeding, making sure the data kept transmitting. His last words were recorded. He said, "Earth, we have bought you time. Use it well." The footage showed final moments. She was surrounded by broken drones and damaged equipment. Warriors were advancing on her position. She had no weapons left, but she was smiling. Made it to the colony's ore refinery, or said. She had rigged it to explode. She waited until most of my remaining warriors were around the building, then she triggered it manually. The display showed a massive explosion that destroyed half the colony. The explosion killed another 600 of my soldiers, and her. The room was silent except for the quiet hum of the ship. The commanders looked at the footage with new eyes. This was not a simple conquest. This was a nightmare. "But we won," said weakly. "We took the colony." Or laughed that bitter laugh again. "Yes, we won. We won a pile of rubble and 3,000 dead warriors. And the humans, they won something much more valuable. They won information. Every military engagement after that became harder because humans knew exactly how to fight us." He advanced the display to show another scene. Human colonies fortifying. Earth's fleets mobilizing. All of them using the tactics that and had died to deliver. That mining colony bought Earth time to prepare, or said. And it taught me my second lesson about humans. Give them time and they will adapt. Give them tools and they will create weapons. Give them a reason to fight and they will make you pay for every meter of ground you take. He looked at directly. You call them primitive. You think their technology makes them weak. But I learned that technology does not win wars, will does. And humanity's will is stronger than anything I have ever encountered. The atmosphere in the war room had changed completely. The eager excitement from the beginning of the meeting was gone. Now there was tension, uncertainty, fear, though none of the commanders would admit it. They were starting to understand that attacking Earth might not be the easy victory had promised. But Or was not finished. He stood silently for a moment, his face showing something that might have been pain or regret. When he spoke again, his voice was even quieter than before. "After the mining colony," he said, "we thought we had learned our lesson. We knew humans were stubborn. We knew they would fight hard. So we changed our strategy. We decided to avoid their colonies and strike directly at their supply ships, cut off their resources and force them to negotiate." The display changed to show a map of space, with marked routes showing human cargo vessels traveling between Earth and their colonies. Small dots represented patrol ships waiting to intercept them. "We began capturing their cargo ships," or continued. "We took their supplies, we destroyed empty vessels. We thought this would cripple them economically, force them to surrender without massive casualties." He paused. "Instead, we taught them our third lesson. We taught them about consequences." A new image appeared. A small medical transport ship with a Red Cross symbol on its hull. The name on the side read Mercy's Hand. "This ship appeared on our scanners near one of our patrol routes," or said. "It was transmitting distress signals, claiming engine failure, requesting assistance. Our sensors showed it had a crew of 12, all medical personnel, no weapons, no shields, just a broken ship asking for help." Commander spoke up. "You helped them." "No," or said. "We captured them. We thought they might have valuable medical knowledge we could use. We brought them aboard our flagship." His voice grew darker. "That was the worst mistake I ever made." The display showed the interior of a flagship. Warriors escorted 12 human prisoners through the corridors. Among them were two who stood out, a man and a woman, both wearing medical uniforms. The captain of that ship was Minyu, or explained, pointing to the man. He was tall and thin, with sharp eyes that seemed to notice everything. The chief medical officer was Sora. The woman was younger, with kind features and gentle hands. They did not look dangerous. They looked like healers. We brought them to our medical bay, or continued. We wanted them to show us their medical technology. They agreed. They were cooperative. They answered our questions. They even helped treat some of our wounded warriors. I thought they had accepted their situation. The footage showed Minyu and Sora working in the medical bay, examining patients, discussing treatments with doctors. They seemed calm, professional, harmless. What we did not know, or said slowly, was that humans had been studying us. They had been studying our biology, our immune systems, our weaknesses. He touched a control, and the image zoomed in on Sora's hands as she handled medical instruments. And they had found something terrible. A commander leaned forward. What did they find? They found that human diseases could kill us, or said simply. Our species had never encountered human pathogens before. Our immune systems had no defense. A simple human virus could be deadly too. Understanding began to dawn on some faces in the room. Others still looked confused. Sora was a brilliant doctor, or continued. She had modified a human virus, made it more contagious, more deadly to biology. Then she and Minyu deliberately infected themselves with it. Horror spread through the council. They had infected themselves, deliberately. They waited 2 days, or said. They worked in our medical bay, acting normal while the virus incubated in their bodies. They touched equipment. They breathed the same air. They spread the infection to our doctors, our wounded, our crew, and we had no idea. The footage showed the moment everything went wrong. Minyu suddenly collapsed. Sora began coughing violently. Alarms blared as medical scanners detected something wrong. Our doctors tried to help them, or said. They put Minyu and Sora in isolation and began treating them, but it was too late. The virus had already spread throughout the ship. Within hours, warriors began falling ill. Within a day, they began dying. The display showed chaos on the flagship. Warriors collapsed in corridors. Medical bays overflowed with the sick. The infection spread faster than anyone could contain it. Sora died first, or said quietly. In her final moments, our doctors asked her why. Why would she kill herself? Why would she do this? He paused. She told them, you killed 300 miners, innocent people. You took our supplies and destroyed our ships. You needed to learn that actions have consequences. The room was absolutely silent. Every commander was staring at the display, watching the horror unfold. Minyu lived a few hours longer, or continued. Before he died, he told us that the other 10 crew members on his ship had also been infected. They had allowed themselves to be captured by other ships. They were spreading the disease throughout our fleet. Stood up, his face showing disbelief. They sacrificed themselves, killed their own crew, just for revenge. Not just revenge, or corrected. Strategy. That flagship had 4,000 warriors on board. The virus killed 3,000 before we could evacuate the survivors and scuttle the ship. 6 other ships in our fleet were infected. We had to destroy them all to prevent the plague from spreading further. The display showed ships exploding in space, sacrificed to stop the infection. Escape pods fleeing. Warriors dying in quarantine. In total, or said, 12 humans killed 7,000 warriors. 12 people destroyed 7 capital ships, not with weapons, not with bombs, with their own infected bodies. He advanced the display one more time. It showed a transmission that had been sent to all ships. The message was in human language, but translated subtitles appeared below. From Earth Command to Fleet, you killed 300 civilians at our mining colony. We have now killed 7,000 of your warriors. This is not revenge. This is mathematics. For every human you kill, we will kill 20 of yours. Attack us again and we will make your entire species extinct. We do not bluff. Or let the message stay on the screen. We thought it was an empty threat. We tested them. We sent ships to attack another human colony. He touched his face. They deployed another pathogen. This one did not kill. It sterilized an entire breeding world unable to produce offspring. Forever. The commanders were stunned. A breeding world. That was not an act of war. That was genocide. They sent another message, or said. They told us this was their only warning, attack again and the next virus would be extinction. Not just soldiers, everyone, every in the galaxy. He looked around the room. We sued for peace. We signed a treaty promising never to attack humanity again, and for 30 cycles we have kept that promise. He turned to face directly. You want to break that treaty. You want to attack Earth. So let me give you my third lesson about humanity. They are willing to sacrifice themselves for victory. They will turn their own bodies into weapons, and when they make a threat, they mean it. The silence in the war room was absolute. Every commander sat frozen, staring at the holographic display where the human message still glowed. The threat was clear. The history was undeniable. 3 lessons had been taught through blood and sacrifice. Commander finally found his voice. But Ambassador, that was 30 cycles ago. The peace treaty has held. Humans have not attacked anyone. They have expanded peacefully. They trade with other species. They have become civilized. He gestured at the display. Surely they have moved past their violent nature. Or's damaged face twisted into something that might have been a smile. It was not a happy expression. Moved past it. Commander, that is the most dangerous assumption you could make. Let me show you what humanity has been doing during these 30 cycles of peace. He touched the control panel and new images appeared. Current intelligence reports, recent surveillance footage, updated information about human territory. After the treaty, or began, we assumed humans would relax, celebrate their victory, enjoy their peace. Instead, they did something we never expected. They prepared. The display showed Earth's orbital space. Where there had once been scattered satellites and small stations, there were now massive defensive platforms bristling with weapons. Shipyards orbited the planet like metal moons, constantly building new vessels. In 30 cycles, or said, humanity has built the largest fleet in their entire sector. They now have over 2,000 combat vessels, the same number we have. But their ships are not the primitive craft from before. They have learned from every species they encountered. They have adapted technology from dozens of civilizations. He zoomed in on one of the human warships. It was sleek and deadly, covered in weapon systems and shield generators that looked far more advanced than they should be. This ship was designed by their chief engineer, or explained. A brief image showed a serious-looking human man standing in front of technical blueprints. He is considered a genius even by advanced species standards. He has created weapons that can penetrate shields we thought were impenetrable. He has designed armor that can withstand strikes from our most powerful guns. Shook his head. But they have not used these weapons. They have not attacked anyone. That proves they are peaceful now. No, or said firmly. It proves they are smart, they are not peaceful, they are patient. There is a difference. He changed the display to show human colonies spread across dozens of worlds. Each one was heavily fortified, surrounded by defensive weapons and planetary shields. Every human colony is now self-sufficient, or continued. They can survive without supply ships from Earth. They can manufacture their own weapons. They can grow their own food. Cut off one colony and the others continue fighting. Destroy 10 colonies and 100 more remain. They have learned from their past. They will never be vulnerable again. A female commander spoke up. But their children. Surely the new generation knows only peace. They will not have the same fighting spirit. Or laughed bitterly. Watch this. He showed footage from a human school. Children no older than 10 cycles in human years were playing a game, but it was not a normal game. They were practicing tactics, learning strategy, working together to solve military problems disguised as play. Human children learn warfare from the moment they can walk, or said. They call it education, games, sports, but every activity teaches them to think like warriors, to work as teams, to never give up. By the time a human reaches adulthood, they have spent their entire life preparing for conflict. He showed more footage. Teenagers training in combat, adults practicing with weapons, elderly humans teaching the young about the war 30 cycles ago, making sure they never forget. They have a saying, or said, "We forgive, but we never forget." They signed a peace treaty with us, yes, but they did not forget what we did. They did not forget the 300 miners. They did not forget the torture of Captain, and they have spent 30 cycles making sure we can never do it again. The display changed to show intercepted human communications, messages between their colonies, reports from their intelligence services. Our spies have discovered something troubling, or continued. Humans maintain detailed records of every species that has ever wronged them, every attack, every insult, every broken treaty. They keep lists, they track movements, they watch and wait. He pulled up a specific file. It showed empire movements over the past cycles. Human intelligence reports detailed every ship, every base, every weakness in defenses. They know everything about us, or said. Our fleet positions, our breeding worlds, our supply routes. They have been studying us for 30 cycles just as we have been watching them. The difference is they have been preparing to win. High Matriarcha finally spoke, her old voice cutting through the tension. Ambassador, or, you have shown us humanity's past actions. You have shown us their current preparations. But I must ask you directly, if we attack Earth now, what will happen? Or turned to face her, his face grave. Matriarch, we will win battles, our warriors are trained, our ships are powerful, we might even conquer some of their colonies, we might reach Earth itself. He paused, letting the words sink in. But by the time we do, he continued, humanity will have made the cost unbearable. For every world we take, they will destroy 3 of ours. For every ship we lose, they will ensure we lose 10 more. They will not fight fair. They will not follow rules. They will use biological weapons, suicide attacks, sabotage, assassination, terrorism. Everything we taught them 30 cycles ago, they will use against us. The display showed simulations, projections based on human capabilities. The numbers were horrifying. Even if the casualties would be devastating. And when we finally stand on the ruins of Earth, or said quietly, when we claim our victory over the ashes of their world, we will have destroyed ourselves in the process. Our empire will be crippled, our population decimated, and the surviving humans scattered across the galaxy will hunt us forever. They will never forgive, they will never forget, and they will never stop until every is dead. The room was silent. Every commander understood now. This was not about winning or losing. This was about survival. Stood, but his confidence was gone. Surely you exaggerate, Ambassador. Do I? Or asked. He pulled up one final piece of intelligence, an intercepted message between 2 human diplomats. One was named Earth's lead negotiator with alien species. The other was the engineer. The message was simple but chilling. Had written, "The fleet is moving near our territory. Should we be concerned?" Response, "No, we are not ready yet. Give us another 20 years. Not ready yet, or repeated. They look at us, at our entire military force, and they say they are not ready to fight us yet. What do you think they will be capable of in 20 years? What weapons will create? What strategies will they develop? He looked around the room one final time. I have told you everything. I have shown you humanity's persistence, their adaptation, their wrath, and their patience. Now you must decide. Do we attack Earth, or do we leave them alone and hope they remain peaceful? High Matriarcha stood slowly. She looked old and tired, but her voice was strong. The Council will vote. All in favor of Commander's proposal to invade Earth indicate now. 3 hands rose, and 2 young commanders who still believed in easy victory. All opposed. 47 hands rose. The decision was clear. A nodded. The proposal is rejected. We will not attack Earth. The treaty stands. This council is dismissed. The commanders filed out slowly, talking quietly among themselves. Left without speaking, his ambitions crushed, or remained behind, staring at the image of Earth on the display. Approached him. You saved many lives today, Ambassador. No, or said softly. I just prevented many deaths. There is a difference. He touched his scars. I learned my lessons the hard way. I hope we never have to learn them again. Meanwhile, light years away on Earth received a message from their orbital surveillance. The fleet had turned away. They were leaving. She walked to where was working on new weapon designs. They are gone, she said. Looked up and smiled. Good, we were not ready. Will we ever be ready? Asked. Returned to his work. In 20 years, ask me again. For now, we prepare. We always prepare, because the day we stop preparing is the day someone will attack us thinking we are weak. Nodded and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, species watched Earth with fear and respect. They had learned not to attack humanity, and humanity would make sure that lesson was never forgotten.